Just before we start, does anyone know when we'll go back to having real meetings? I know it depends a bit on this court case.
This virtual meeting is to be webcast. Members are reminded of the need to unmute before speaking. The chairman I'm going to read the following announcement. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet or filmed and will be capable of repeated viewings or another use by such third parties. Please could I also remind members of the public who have registered to speak that they will be admitted to the meeting at the appropriate time. Please also be aware that if technical difficulties interrupt the meeting that cannot be overcome, I will need to adjourn the meeting. My name is Jo Sherbernia, and I'm going to chair this meeting this evening. I'd like to welcome all officers and councillors and members of the public and introduce our Principal Planning Officer, Jerry Godden, and our Democratic Services Officer, Vivian Messenger. So, members, I'd like to advise you that during each application, if you lose your signal, turn off your screens as to be seen to leave the meeting for a period of time. Then you will not be included in the vote on such application that is being presented. Item 2, advice to public and speakers attending the Council Planning Subcommittee. This general advice is on pages 5 to 8. Item 3, minutes. Is everyone happy with the minutes? Pages 9 to 16.
Agreed.
Yeah. Item 4, apologies for absence. Any apologies?
Chairman, I've received apologies from Councillors Mahindra, Owen and Sunga.
Thank you. 5, declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest in any of the items?
Councillor
Chairman.
Councillor Heath.
Yes.
Chairman, I have to say that I cannot vote on the second item. I've shared many emails with the applicant and some with one of the objectors. And indeed, I called a meeting with the enforcement officers and the planning officers about this matter. So I think I should not vote.
Is it a non-pecuniary?
It's definitely non-pecuniary. I've never even met anybody.
But you will leave the meeting?
No, I will speak, I think, but I will not vote.
Okay.
Well, thank you for letting us know, Councillor Heath. Item 6, any other business?
None, Chairman.
7, just to look at for councillors to look at the planning policy briefing note, the local plan. Item 8, site visits. Members are reminded that for the duration of the coronavirus pandemic, as decided at the group leaders meeting of the 24th of June 2020, no member site visits will be conducted. Therefore, any planning application deferred for a site visit at an area plan subcommittee will be automatically referred to the District Development Management Committee for determination. Right, so we can get on to we have 2 planning applications this evening. Item 9, EFP/2442/20 Queens Road, Buckhurst Hill, IG9 5AZ. And you can find the details on pages 17 to 26.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application for a single-storey rear extension in association with the existing ground floor commercial units, and it will be used as ancillary office accommodation.
Can I interrupt? Could you
Yes.
either speak up or turn your volume up? Your voice is quite faint.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
No problems. Okay, so this is at the top of Queen's Road, and it backs onto Westbury Lane. The plot goes from one side to the other. It's next to a public car park and is part of the shopping frontage along this part of Queen's Road. Westbury Lane has mostly residential properties at the back, and the backs of these properties here where the cursor is. The existing property would appear to be a house that's been extended over the years. This is the front elevation on Queen's Road, the rear elevation in Westbury Lane, and looking at the side, and you can see there's a single-storey rear extension at the back of the property. The scheme will see this single-storey rear extension erected in the area. There will be the demolition of an existing outbuilding in the rear yard. And this is what it will look like from Westbury Lane. So it's, as you can see, single story with a hipped roof and a gable end roof over the front and access in with a low wall at the front of the property as well. This is the floor plan showing the area. So if I go back to this is the original floor plan. There's an outbuilding to be demolished here, an inner yard and an outer yard. And the outbuilding, which in this area will be demolished, and the outer yard and the inner yard built on with this single-storey extension as an ancillary office to the main property, which fronts Queen's Road. See, there's also a public footpath to the immediate north of the south of the site on this map as well, which goes onto the car park. And this just shows the roof shape of the new building. So in this area here, so it will have a hipped roof with a flat section at the top, crown roof, and then a flat roof will remain existing. Photograph shows it quite well. This building will be removed, and this area where my cursor is drawing out this square is where the new building will go into. This existing building will be retained as part of the scheme itself. This is the property from the front, showing a fairly traditional kind of extended shop front on the original building as residential property above. This is the rear aspect. This building here is part of 179, and this white fronted outbuilding is the one that will be demolished. This white building is on a separate property and is not part of this scheme. You can see a view down Westbury Lane showing some of the rear scape of the area in terms of the buildings that are in this area. Some are commercial, some are the backs of the properties that front Queen's Road, and there is, as you go further down, residential. There's again another view showing the building to be removed, the inner yard fence which will go. This fence will be removed with a lower brick built wall as shown, and these parts of the building where the cursor are will be retained. And that shows basically the same. And another view down the street scene as well, etc. So we have received a number of comments and objections to this scheme. The parish council has objected, as shown on page 21 and page 22, and 5 neighbours have objected in the report. To basically summarise, the objections are generally that it's an overdevelopment of the site. It's out of keeping with the streetscape in this particular area, and it could cause traffic problems in terms of parking and deliveries. We have received 2 late objections from the occupants of 178, I think, Queen's Road. And where's the other one? Oh, sorry, yeah, so that's 177 we've received as a late objection. And 23 Westbury Lane, Westbury Road as well. Sorry, Westbury Lane. Let's get it right because that's important. So we've had 2 late objections from 23 Westbury Lane. So let's go back. The key considerations as laid out in the report are the design, scale and siting of the building, impact on amenity and highways issues, and parking considerations, and the impact on the Epping Forest SAC. As you can see in the report, the officers have looked at this. As you can see in the photograph, it's quite an eclectic mix of built form on the back of the properties that front Queen's Road and then go on to Westbury Lane. In the view of officers, the single-storey rear extension is an acceptable design which complements the street scene and doesn't cause any harm and isn't overdevelopment of the site in terms of our economic policies with encouraging business and commercial uses in these areas. There's no adverse impact on the neighbours in terms of overlooking or loss of daylight and sunlight. And the parking authority have no objection to this. There's no parking provided on the site. And as far as we're aware, there's no parking currently on the site. So it's considered that there wouldn't be any adverse impact on the parking and highways uses in this particular area. You can see there's no objection from land drainage, which was another potential issue. And it doesn't fall under the Epping Forest SAC as there are no additional employees or traffic journeys, and it will not have a greater detrimental impact as it currently exists. Therefore, having considered this, the officer's recommendation is to approve. We would ask that an extra condition regarding the hours of construction is placed upon it, as that appears to have been missed off during the drafting, but otherwise the recommendation is to approve.
Thank you. We have two speakers on 179 Queen's Road. Parish Councillor for Buckhurst Hill, Councillor Bobby Nagpal. Could you give you have 3 minutes to speak, Councillor Nagpal. So it's your turn now.
Many thanks, Chair. Chair and members of the committee, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Many thanks. So I am thankful to my Deputy Chair, Councillor Ken Williamson, who has drafted the objection and the comments that I will read out today. So since the Parish Council considered these schemes, the original scheme, we note that there have been changes to slightly reduce the footprint, and we are heartened by the condition of ancillary use now. We still have a concern with the footprint of the building, and furthermore that permitted development rights may be used in the future to change the use from commercial to residential. And we would like some sort of reassurance that any future development change of use would require a thorough planning application that would be considered. That's all we'd like to add in respect of this application, Chair.
Thank you. Our next speaker, who is the agent for 179 Queen's Road, is Mr. Rahul Tahim, please. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So initially, the application follows a very positive pre-planning application for a much more substantial two-storey development. The conclusion of the pre-application stated that the scheme would be supported by the council. A subsequent application was put in following the council's advice. The application was not supported as per the pre-app and was subsequently refused and dismissed at appeal. So obviously, to put matters into context, this is a revised scheme. The rear of the site fronts a road, namely Westbury Lane, which is characterised by varying forms of development. Not all of those were shown in the street scene view, but there's, for instance, commercial 1.5-storey buildings at the rears of 157 and 161 Queen's Road, with a 2.5-storey residential scheme at the rear of 147 Queen's Road. There were also rows of purpose-built 2-storey dwellings in the vicinity of the site. The proposal involves an extension to the existing building, which will be a commercial use. There is no intention at all to use this as residential. Given the precedents fronting Westbury Lane, the modest extension is considered appropriate and in keeping. This is verified by the fact that the height of the extension doesn't exceed more than 4 metres, and the height of the eaves is less than 3 metres. These both accord with the principles of good urban design. The proposal is set in from the back edge of the pavement and set in from the boundaries. What it is very important for consideration in regards to this is that the appeal inspector's comments of the last proposal are binding. For instance, the appeal inspectors felt a 2-storey development wasn't in keeping. The extension is now 1 story and has been significantly reduced. The appeal inspector also felt that the large wall adjacent to the footpath would cause an sense of enclosure. Again, the proposal is now 1 story, and there's a form of articulation and interest in the side elevation with the door and window openings. It is important to appreciate, though, that there is a public footpath adjacent to this. The appeal inspector also went on to say that the 2-story development would have an adverse impact on the neighbouring building at 177 Queen's Road. Once more, the reduction in the mass scale and bulk would overcome this concern. So, strictly speaking, and to point out, new material shouldn't be introduced in assessing this application, which has been carefully assessed by the planning department, and it has been demonstrated that the appeal inspector's concerns have been overcome, and planning permission should therefore be granted. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We can now go to members, please.
Hello, Chair. Good evening. We have Councillor Aniket Patel, who would like to speak first, and after him there's Councillor Heap.
Councillor Patel, then Councillor Heap, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I'm ward councillor in the area, and sorry, just before I begin, probably non-pecuniary interest as the I believe that the tenant of the property at fronting Queen's Road is one of our parish councillors and is known to me, so I'll just declare that as a non-pecuniary interest. Couple of concerns about the application. I mean, firstly, the application now is going to be backing onto both Queen's Road and Westbury Lane. I think what's being proposed does tidy up that the disused garden that's there on Westbury Lane side. But essentially now you have a continuation of one property from one end of the road to the other. Which is double fronted. The description of the proposal states proposed office extension to existing ground floor commercial building. Can the officer please clarify, are they looking to split the property into 2? So are they looking to keep the existing use category on the front, or are they looking to bring in a separate use category for the side that's on Westbury Lane? That's the first question, please.
No, this is an ancillary office to the main use, so it's not a new use. It's ancillary to the existing use onto Queen's Road. So in terms of its use category, does that comply then with what's on the for the leisure use at the front? Does an office use fall under the same category? But yeah, if it's ancillary to the use, I mean, if they've got a leisure use at the front, they would clearly need some form of office, etc. So, I mean, it would be ancillary. Can we
prevent though a secondary entrance from Westbury Lane to this proposed office space?
Sorry, that make sense? Not quite. I'm understanding because there's already an existing. There's an access from Westbury Lane as part of the design.
But I think what the concern of the residents are that this may potentially be split into something else at a later date, and that's what I'm trying to prevent from happening. Because although we've applied a condition for a for this preventing it to be split into a residential property, there's nothing to say that this will be split into a secondary, a separate office for that somebody else could rent for their means.
Well, condition 5 says it should only be used for purposes incidental to the existing commercial building, so they wouldn't be able to split it off because of that condition. It is part of the main building.
How would we? Sorry to jump back in, Chairman, but how do we police that to make sure that didn't happen? Because you see, there is a natural divide between the 2 properties because you've got the existing you've got the existing footprint. Demolition of the outbuilding, so you revert back to the existing building. I know the property well, so what I'm trying to say is, how are we going to police against it from being split into two separate units, essentially?
Much the same way as we would with any other thing, we would rely on the vigilance of the public to let the enforcement team know if they considered a breach had taken place, and we would investigate it. And change of uses have to be lawful if they're not discovered, have to go on for 10 years, which in this kind of area, I would be very surprised if that happened.
Can we beef up this condition in any way to prevent what I've stated? Or do you feel that this condition is sufficient to prevent it from happening?
No, I think the conditions are sufficient because it's saying it should only be used incidental to the existing commercial building.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we could add the words commercial use of the building in at 178. So we could slightly update it just to put in, oh no, I've got the address there anyway, haven't they? The existing commercial use of the building. I mean, we could insert that, but I mean, it's already a fairly strong condition.
And the second point is around parking. Can we please ensure, or can a condition be inserted to ensure that?
Can you speak up, Councillor Patel? It's very hard to hear you.
Apologies, Chairman. Is that better now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. A condition on a parking condition that could be inserted to prevent the potential of losing any of the car parking spaces on Westbury Lane for this extension. Can that be inserted, please? No,
it can't. I'm afraid it's outside the red line area. The highway is down to Essex Highways and the North Essex Parking Partnership. This isn't part of the scheme.
So there's no. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patel. Councillor Heap, please.
Thank you, Chairman, Madam Chairman. Well, first thing is it's absolutely hideous, but that's no reason to refuse it. I think the parish council are right to ask for some kind of condition that stops it being turned into accommodation. And ancillary to the business, that is such a nonsense word. That could be anything. That could be all night naked Ludo. It's a nonsense word. That's not a strong enough condition. Councillor Patel is absolutely right. We need to do something a little bit more substantial to stop it being changed into something else. I don't see a reason to object to it, but that condition, ancillary to what the business is, no, that needs to be stiffened up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor, that is a perfectly acceptable word in planning, and there is significant case law on that.
I don't agree. What is ancillary?
It's ancillary. It is ancillary to the main use of the building.
And it's what would that be?
It's a matter of fact and degree on every individual case. If we got an allegation that they changed it to something, the enforcement team would have to visit it and then make a judgment of whether they had changed or not.
In that case, what would not be ancillary to the business?
Well, it depends what the business is, Councillor.
Well, it's a gym, so what would not be ancillary to it?
Without looking at the use class orders, it would depend what class the gym fell into, and then whether there was permitted the rights to change to other things as well. But ancillary means things like offices. They might have a snack bar. It is a matter of fact and degree.
It is a matter of fact and degree. So if they were to open up the back of it and serve coffee out of it, that might be ancillary to the business. So we need to have some kind of descriptive thing about that. And the fact that you hesitated without a bang, 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 this is what ancillary means that it's open to interpretation.
Yes.
So we're into a vague area here.
It is open to interpretation, Councillor. It's a matter of fact and degree, which only can be dealt with by officers having had a complaint going around and seeing what is going on. You cannot hone down ancillary because it depends on the primary use. And
so don't use the word ancillary. Let's be more descriptive.
Well, ancillary.
Chair, can Andrew Marks wants to come in, I think, at this point.
Yes, Andrew.
Thanks, Chair. Perhaps I can help by putting it this way. If members do want to prevent very specific activities from taking place in that space, they're welcome to specify what those are. Like Jerry has explained, it's not possible to say what it is ancillary because it is something that's evolved over years through case law. It's an acceptable and accepted law legal term in planning. So and that's why it's used. In effect, they can use it for storage. I take the point that Councillor Heap makes, that if they wish to serve coffee, that that could be a concern. But like Jerry said, that really is something that we can only assess when it takes place. Are they serving 100 cups of coffee a day? Is it a coffee shop? Is it associated with the use? So really, the best way for members to debate this, I would suggest, is to, if they are concerned about specific things like a coffee shop going on there or coffee being served from there, then perhaps we could think about preventing those specific activities. Or if you do not want access onto that road, there is the possibility of putting a condition on that conditions out the door or the access for anything other than, say, deliveries. That's also something that can be done.
Right, thank you. Any other speakers on this application?
Yes, we do. We have quite a few. Councillor Stephen Neville is next, and then Councillor Brian Sandler, and then we have Councillor David Wixley, and then Councillor Alan Lyon. In that order.
Right. Who was the first one, sorry?
Councillor Stephen Neville is first.
Councillor Stephen Neville, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'm not too fussed about the design, although I'm fussed more about the footprint of the building. It's still taking up quite a bit of the site, and I would like to ask a question about whether or not we can, on this particular site, prevent permitted development rights, as the parish councillor suggested, because that might help the situation as far as residents are concerned.
Commercial properties do have different permitted development rights to houses, but if members were to be of the opinion to remove the commercial permitted development rights, as long as you let me know what that was, for example, any buildings in the yard area, that would be something we could condition.
Okay, that's good.
But you'd have to specify what you mean, and then I'd have to just confirm that with the commercial PD, because I'd have to go and look at that.
Okay, so that's not something we could, is something we'd have to sort of almost bring the application back.
Well, no, I think you could say, if members could say we'd like a condition put on restricting the permitted development rights for the building in respects of we don't want any further buildings in the yard area, I could then phrase that when I write the condition.
Okay, yeah.
If members wanted to.
Well, if members are, I'm quite happy to propose what you just said as a potential condition. That would be good.
You're muted, councillor.
So next speaker, is it?
I was just coming back on something. Yeah, something I get a little bugbear of mine is when things aren't properly described in the application. It happens in the next application as well. It says Buckhurst Parish Council. It's Buckhurst Hill Parish Council, Ward Buckhurst. There's Buckhurst Hill West. There's Buckhurst Hill East, Buckhurst Hill West. And then the next application, it says Buckhurst Hill, but there's no Buckhurst Hill ward. It's two different wards. It used to be a Buckhurst Hill ward years and years ago. That's back in the 70s and before. Just I like people to get things proper. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that, councillor, and see if we can change that for next time.
So our next
Councillor Brian Sandler, please.
Councillor Brian Sandler, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I seem to be disagreeing with most of what's been said. I think the rear of most of those buildings are not attractive. I think the new proposed building going up is a big improvement on what's there. I like the idea of helping and encouraging local businesses to enlarge, which hopefully will bring in more employment to the area. I can't see the point of taking away any rear access because you'd be taking away a fire door or fire escape. I think the officers have looked at it very sensibly, and I would give it my full support. I won't carry on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor David Wixley now.
Councillor Wixley, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think I'm in agreement with the last speaker to a large extent. My query was the late objections which were mentioned. I wasn't quite clear what those objections were. I don't know if you mentioned that, Mr. Godden. I'm particularly curious about the one at 23 Westbury Lane, because where is 23 Westbury Lane in relation to this property? I'm guessing that it's sort of opposite, but I can't see any reasons why they would object, but perhaps you could enlighten me.
Yes, Councillor. I did say basically 23 is there, so it's more or less opposite, unless it was 25. And I'll just get the objections up. Basically, the late objections were very, very similar to the objections that we'd already received in terms of the impact on the street scene and parking, especially with the main issues. So I just got to find which one it was. There we go.
Right. Does that answer your question?
I think Mr. Godden's in the process of answering my question,
Yes.
Chairman.
Oh, sorry, I thought you'd done that.
No, he hasn't finished.
No. Yeah, no. There's it's basically the one from criticism from 23. Sorry, is it 23? Yeah, 23 Westbury. It's basically criticising the description of the site, saying that about ancillary real buildings. They're low-level garages with flat roofs, not buildings. And then the second paragraph is yes. So basically, the objection is that the new building will be basically much wider than the existing other buildings on other plots in Westbury Lane, and it's basically that it will not be in keeping with the street scene. So that's his basic objection.
Right.
Councillor Alan Lyon wishes to speak next.
Councillor Lyon, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. The question I had was really access through Westbury Lane. It looks like there's 3 doors into the property. One door from the existing building in, and then there's 2 other doors, one at the side and one at the rear. My concern was if it was established that the 2 buildings were separated and access was actually made, main access was made from Westbury Lane, is that a possibility either now or in the future? And is that acceptable?
Well, Councillor, it would they'd have to alter condition 5, which is saying it's got to be used as incidental. So if they wanted to separate it into a completely separate building with nothing to do with the part that fronts onto Queen's Road, they would have to put an application in to vary the condition.
Right, and access from Westbury Lane as a separate shop front building, whatever, would that be within their rights to do that, or would that require a separate application?
No, that would require a separate application, because a shop front would change it. That would be material change.
Right, okay. And the other question was about the recycling space. I'm not quite sure the proportions shown on the plans. It looks quite small in proportion to the size of the building. Is that adequate from the investigations that we carried out?
Yes, so looking at the plans, there's more than adequate enough space there for the commercial waste to be in that area. So yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, Chair. Councillor Aniket Patel would like to come back.
Councillor Patel.
Thank you for allowing me to come back, Chairman. Just touching on the points that Councillor Lyon has raised, I think they're really important actually to prevent my earlier comment about this property being split into 2. I think condition 5, as Mr. Godden has stated, should hopefully prevent that from happening. But Mr. Marks comment suggested that perhaps we could beef up the condition, particularly with respect to from how I understood it. Mr. Mark, sorry, I'm looking at you. Just what you said, because can you just repeat what you said? Because I feel that there is a way in which we can prevent or at least stiffen the condition up further.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, the condition is belts and braces. So because the application says that it's an ancillary office, we've got the condition on there for an additional planning unit to be created, which would essentially be what somebody would do by splitting the site in two. Would mean there's a new chapter in the planning book, so it would need planning permission anyway. And if it's used for anything not in association with the front commercial, then that would be a change of use and a new planning unit as well. So I'm fine with the wording as it is, but obviously if members feel that it needs to beef up, we can beef up, then we can look at that. And regarding the access, what I said is we don't think it's necessary, but if members do feel that that's something they wish to consider, then either the access to the rear could either be conditioned either as just a fire exit or just for loading and offloading or anything like that. So that's the type of condition that's regularly put on applications where commercial activities face onto other sensitive uses like residential. So that's not an issue. And in fact, if I think the point about it possibly being in a fire exit is a valid point. So members may want to have a think about that one in that context.
Thank you, Mr. Moss. In that case, I would like a condition inserted, just allowing essentially means of escape from the side door. I also want a condition inserted to prevent any deliveries taking place on Westbury Lane. That if deliveries are to take place to the site, that they must take place from the Queen's Road entrance. Is that possible to insert that in?
If members wish, my suggestion would just be that we are clear about whether the refuse and the recycling is included or not, because that sometimes causes an issue if people collect refuse and recycling, and so if the refuse and recycling can be collected from the back, we should specify that that's in order as well.
I think that's fair. And also just touching on the comment Mr. Godden made regarding the commercial permitted development rights. I think the example that was given about the footprint, essentially the property's footprint is to the absolute maximum. So, you know, what other commercial permitted development rights are there?
I think the commercial permitted development rights are very limited, and I apologise, but I don't know them off the top of my head. But they are typically to allow for things like loading bays or small bits of hard standing and things like that. But in general, commercial properties do not have permitted development rights, and in fact, because this property has got residential on top, I would argue that it's got no permitted development rights anyway. So happy if members want to condition that out, and we can do that with a sort of a catch-all condition that just refers to the general permitted development order and just saying no further development to be allowed without planning permission. So we can word something appropriate on that.
Thank you. I'd like that condition also inserted. Can I just clarify how many access doors are there to that rear space?
Sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
So yeah, there's two. There's the main door and the side door, which is the one that you're talking about having conditioned just to be used as a fire escape, and then there's an internal door.
So the main door that you mentioned is on Westbury Lane, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, yes.
So this is what gives me concern that the property is eventually going to be split into two. Because essentially if it's auxiliary to the premises on the front, then in my opinion, there's no need for a secondary entrance from the rear. So is there anything we can do to prevent that?
Well, I'm sure that the argument would. I'm sure the argument would be that if this is going to be used as an office, which they're saying it is, that the office workers don't want to be going in and out of the gym area, etc. So I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable to have a door at the back. Your fears of what happened is we can only judge this on what it is now, not what could happen in the future.
Okay, Chairman, can I ask that those conditions as described by Mr. Marks are inserted, please?
What? That the conditions? I didn't catch the end of that. Sorry, Councillor.
The conditions as described by Mr. Marks are inserted. I believe there are 2 conditions.
Yes. Any other speakers?
Chair, it's over to you on this one. Councillor Son Heap wishes to speak again, and also Councillor Bobby Nagpal from the parish wants to speak again. So that's your shout. That one.
I think Councillor Heap, but I think this speaker, Bobby Councillor Nagpal, he's had his 3 minutes, and it's not usual that we allow you to come in to speak more than those 3 minutes. So I think I'll just take Councillor Heap, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, my gripe, if it was a gripe, is about inexact use of language, and ancillary is very, very inexact use of language. And Councillor Patel raised a very good point. Do they need access through Westbury Lane? Maybe not. Maybe they need it through the side. Maybe it's between the 2 buildings, come out into the alleyway. There are lots and lots of vagaries about this, and that gives me concern. I'm not necessarily against it. I don't think it's a bad thing, but some of the conditions are pretty negligible.
Fine, thank you. Now, can I ask officers to reiterate, please, the additional conditions, and then we will take those conditions one by one.
Yes, the first condition, Chair, is to remove commercial permitted development rights from the building, which we will word in a suitable way, as explained. And the second condition would be that the side door that goes onto the walkway on the north side of the building would purely be used as a fire escape.
Right. So can we take that first condition and open that up to members to debate, agree that first one?
Chair, sorry, did I not also ask for a condition on deliveries?
One by one at the moment.
Chairman, sorry, I did ask for a condition about the deliveries as well, only being permitted from
on that Road. First condition?
No, deliveries only being permitted from Queen's Road side, not from Westbury Lane.
So is that with the condition that's just been read out, or a separate condition?
No, that was a separate one.
Okay, so that's condition number 2. So so we have two conditions to...
Three then in that case, Chair, sorry.
Right, so can we take the first... Officer, please, could you put the first condition to members?
Do you want me to do a roll call then?
Yes, please.
No.
Or is that not necessary?
Or do you just want to propose, get people to propose and second?
Yes, could you have a proposer and a seconder then, please?
Well, I propose the first motion.
I'm happy to propose or second, Chairman, either.
I'll propose it, and Councillor Patel seconds it, and then we'll go on to the next one.
I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue, Councillor Neville, about who proposes a second.
No. Yeah, so that's the main thing.
So the second condition, Councillor Patel, you're going to propose that. Is there a seconder?
I'll second it.
Right. And the third condition, if we could just reiterate that, please.
That would be the no deliveries, with the exception of refuse. I can't remember what the other one was, sorry, to Westbury Lane, that they'd be at the front of it in Queen's Road.
So that's the third condition. And so the proposer is, just refresh my memory.
Me, Chairman.
And the seconder?
And Councillor Heap's putting his hand up.
Councillor Heap. So those 3 conditions have been proposed and seconded, and we can Is there any more discussion on that, or shall we just go to the formal vote? Yes?
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
No, not you. I can't hear Councillor Pond.
Oh,
He just
Councillor
came
Pond.
in, so and he hasn't put his hand up, so I don't know if he wants to speak or not. So we'll take
Councillor
it.
Murray wants to speak as well.
Councillor Pond?
Don't want to speak, Madam Chairman. I think we're splitting hairs, but I would be prepared to have the conditions put together by acclamation, because we don't need to do a roll call vote on this.
So you'd like those three conditions wrapped up and put forward as a motion. So members happy to.
Can we just let Councillor Stephen Murray come in, because he's got his hand up and he wishes to speak?
Stephen Murray, please. Councillor Murray.
No, it's only a brief comment, but I personally think the third condition is pretty harsh. Only having those specified deliveries, because I know the area reasonably well, and I would have thought deliveries from Queen's Road aren't particularly easy. So I have to say that I think that's a very harsh condition. So if you're going to do all three together, and I'm not asking for them to be separated, I would probably abstain. I would support the first two, but I do think the third condition is a particularly harsh condition.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Murray. Now, if we take those three conditions, can we go for a formal vote on this application?
We can, if members are in agreement to it.
Members? Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
If each councillor could say their name and then whether they're voting for the application, against the application, or abstaining. Councillor Baldwin, please.
Councillor Roger Baldwin for the application.
Councillor Beales.
Councillor Amy Beales for the application.
Councillor Brooks.
Abstain.
Councillor Heap.
Councillor Heap for.
Councillor Bob Jennings.
Councillor Bob Jennings for.
Councillor Judy Jennings.
Councillor Judy Jennings for.
Councillor Kaufman.
Councillor Kaufman for.
Councillor Lyon.
Councillor Lyon for.
Councillor Mead.
Councillor Mead abstain.
Councillor Murray.
Councillor Murray for the application.
Councillor Neville.
Councillor Neville for the application.
Councillor Patel.
Councillor Patel for.
Councillor Pond. Chris Pond.
Chris Pond for.
Councillor Caroline Pond.
Caroline Pond for the application.
Councillor Chris Roberts.
Councillor Chris Roberts abstain.
Councillor Deborah Roberts.
Councillor Deborah Roberts for.
Councillor Sandler.
Councillor Brian Sandler for the application.
Councillor Wixley.
Councillor Wixley for the application. I'm not sure if we actually agreed on the conditions that were submitted, but I can't personally agree with all of those, but I'm for the application in general.
Thank you.
Councillor Rackham.
Councillor Rackham for.
Councillor Sherburnier.
For the application. Councillor Sherburnier for the application.
That's 17 for the application, 0 against the application, with 3 abstentions, Chairman.
Thank you. So that application has been agreed, and we can now move on to our second application of the evening. That's application number EPF/0339/2146, Russell Road, Buckhurst Hill, IG9 5QE.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application for the retention of a first floor side and front extension, roof extension with some roof lights on the front slope, an alteration to an existing rear box dormer to set it in 800 millimetres from the outside edge of the roof. This is a retrospective application and members may be aware of this site. In the plans that will be shown are the previous plans, the currently existing plans and the proposed plans. You will notice there are, especially on the plans, plans and the rear elevation, there may be some plans about the existing two-storey rear extension. This is not part of that application and has no part in the application. That is subject to a separate matter as laid out in the report. So what you have here was the previous house that existed as it's been built, and we're only concerned with everything that in this area of the building where the garage has been converted into rooms and then they've put rooms on top of that. And it's the same for the first floor. For the first floor plans. That's what was there. That's what is there, and that's what's proposed. And you'll see there's not a lot of difference in that terms. And then the roof plan, where it becomes a lot clearer. This has been built on. This was the original flat garage roof with a hipped roof on the main roof. There is now a two-storey side extension, and the roof has been turned to a gable end roof and a dormer installed upon it. The existing dormer is hard up to the boundary, and this scheme would see that the dormer would be set back in from the edge of the roof slope by 800 millimetres. And this is the roof plan, the original scheme existing, and what is proposed. As you can see, the existing dormer where my cursor is will be cut away to have an 800 millimetre gap here on the scheme. The side elevations show what was existing, what is existing with the dormer, and as I said, this area here at the back is not part of this application and not part of the consideration, and that's what is proposed. There would be no change in the side elevational drawings with the dormer issue, and from the other side exactly the same. So that's what it was. This is what's existing. We're not dealing with this issue at the back here at all. We're just dealing with the dormer area and the side extension. So the street scene plan shows the original. Then what's been built, you can see it's basically a two-storey, first floor side extension with a roof that's converted from a hip to a gable end with the three roof lights in it. And if members grant permission tonight, this is what the scheme will look like, and there'll be no change from that. From the rear, you can see this was what the original design of the house. This is what is currently there, and this is the change where the dormer is brought in by 800 millimetres in this gap here. And again, the rear areas in this are not part of the application. So the aerial photograph shows the site, this building here. You can see a very similar dormer down the street in this area here. The gardens are all come together basically because this is the apex of Westbury Road and Russell Road. The front view, this is the property in question. This is before it was developed. It is now clearly got a first floor extension and a gable end roof in this area. This is what the property looks like from the front. You can see the the first floor extension with the roof extension upon it. And from the side showing the dormer. And if you grant permission tonight, this dormer will be set back from this roof slope by 800 millimetres. This is the rear of it showing the dormer itself. This is the dormer there, and that again would be set back, so it would be cut off. There'd be 800 millimetres taken off the dormer on that side. Views of the back of the area, neighbours, and across the area as well. You can see there are box dormers on other properties in the area as well. So let's go back to.
Thank you.
No, sorry,
I
Councillor.
thought you said you'd finished.
No, I haven't finished yet. I'm just trying to find the best plans, and that's probably that one. With this, we have had a number of objections. As you can see, the parish council have objected. The width bulk mass of the development is overbearing, incongruous, and significant impact on the neighbouring properties, adverse impact on them, out of keeping with the street scene and creating a terraced effect. We've had a number of other objections as laid out on page 31, which are basically all to do with the design of the scheme, that it's overbearing, overdominant and out of character, and a loss of privacy and overlooking to neighbours. We've also received a late objection from 8 Westbury Road as well, which is the same, in summary, is the same objections in terms of the overlooking, out of character, overbearing and overdominant. So the issues in this case are fairly typical for urban ones. They're the impact on the street scene and the impact on the neighbours. Now, as you can see from the report, this has been subject of a planning appeal, and the inspector commented on a number of issues on the site. But the point that is germane here is he also commented on the first floor extension and the roof change from a hip to a gable, which he calls a 2-storey side extension. And he was quite clear that it does not cause material adverse harm due to the pre-existing position of the ground floor garage and the boundary, and a reasonable distance between the extension and the dwelling at 48, both the current bungalow, which you saw in the photographs, and the approved flatted development were it to be built. Likewise, the very slight projection of the first floor is beyond the main facade of the original dwelling would not in itself cause any degree of significant harm to the character and appearance given the varied design within the street scene, and this alignment to the projection of the garage below. So there's the inspector had no problems with the side elements of this and the roof elements. With regard to the dormer, it's considered that setting it back in by 800 millimetres reduces the impact of it within the street scene when viewed from the front elevation, and also reduces it from the rear. This has been subject to some negotiation with officers, as you can see, and in line with the inspector's decision. And what can be built were permitted development rights to be intact in terms of dormers. And you can see there are other similar box dormers in the immediate area. In terms of the impact on the neighbours, it's considered there will be no loss of sunlight, daylight to any property. And the main issue is, will there be any overlooking? Well, the answer is yes, there will be overlooking, but nothing that is out of the ordinary for an urban area in a relatively constrained site, as this one is. Click back on that. That will work. And if we were to say, look at the aerial photographs, the back-to-back distances between this property here, which would have the dormer there, and these properties in Westall Road is over 30 metres, which is well in line with the Essex Design Guide. The Essex Design Guide says 25 metres should be the minimum. And in this case, they're A, at an angle, and B, in excess of 25 metres, as shown in the officer's report. So subject to that, the officer's recommendation, subject to the conditions, is for grant. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. We have some speakers, 3 speakers on this application. Carolyn Barry, please. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Carolyn Barry. I live in Westbury Road. This is the rear of 46 Russell Road from Westbury Road. The planning inspector viewed this build in its entirety and supported the council's enforcement notice to demolish everything that has been built without planning permission, the elements of which are the loft extension, the side extension, and this rear extension here. For transparency, I need to add here that the adjoining semi here now has new owners who have approval to build a loft conversion and smaller, less obtrusive rear extension, but only the width of the original property. There are no plans to build a side extension here at any level. No demolition has occurred at number 46 since the enforcement notice was issued 2 years ago, and court proceedings are now in progress. Point 11 of the planning inspector's decision says that the side extension in isolation would be acceptable, but he does not include the rear box dormer or rear extension in that assessment. In fact, he goes on to say that the elements of the scheme in combination represent harmful overdevelopment. The new application, therefore, cannot be considered in isolation without any reference to the rear extension. It would be wrong for this committee to accept such a piecemeal approach to planning applications which attempt to disguise the overall visual impact of a property, especially when the planning inspector has already refused planning permission. I fear that this committee will be sitting here again in 4 weeks' time to discuss the rear extension under a different guise. Unless you decide this evening to refuse this application and request that this case is considered in its entirety, with all elements of the build presented together. This is an important case and has generated much interest from Buckhurst Hill residents. If this application were to be approved this evening, the message this committee will be sending out to its constituents in Epping Forest is this: you can build whatever you wish without planning permission. This may result in you being served with an enforcement notice, which may lead to your scheme being refused by the planning inspector. But if you break down your scheme into small elements, which will disguise the overall negative impact, then resubmit each element one at a time, just with a minor reduction, such as 80 centimetres, so that can be resubmitted to the council. You will then have pretty much everything that was everything approved that had previously been rejected by the planning inspector. This would be the wrong message to send. I respectfully request that this committee rejects this application. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Carolyn Barry. Our second speaker is Councillor Bobby Nagpal, speaking on behalf of Buckhurst Hill Parish Council.
Many thanks, Madam Chairwoman. Can everyone hear us? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can see some nods. Thank you. So the parish understands the difficulties that officers and councillors have in dealing with this application. It's clearly caused quite a lot of concern locally for pretty much for the reasons that Caroline Barry summarised very well. I'm really voicing our concerns that this application is best insensitive, bearing in mind that absolutely no attempt has been made to comply with earlier planning decisions, and the concerns that future applications will be made to retain as much of the illegal extension as possible, very much echoing what Caroline Barry had just said. I don't know if it's possible, I'd like to make this, I'd like to throw this out there to the committee, whether it's possible to defer judgment on this application until such time that the enforcement notice, which is currently enforced on this property, is acted upon. And the parish feels that possibly that may be a sensible way to defer making a decision on this until the whole enforcement process has been completed. Many thanks.
Thank you. And our third speaker this evening is Gavin Chambers on behalf of the applicant, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good evening, respected members. The reason I've chosen to support Paul today is his casework was remaining before I left as a councillor. And I feel there was a burden left over that this resident has been left in limbo, and proportionality perhaps has not necessarily been applied to its application. And the bungalow next door is the elephant in the room. It's going to become flats. And with Paul's application being passed, the flats next door would not cause such irrevocable damage. I will now read out Paul's statement, which he's asked me to read, and I am now reading this statement as if Paul, the applicant, reading it. In August 2018, I had just started work on my approved 2015 planning application when the council granted permission for the demolition of a bungalow and the development of a 3-storey block of flats next door to me. As I walk out my back door, it'll present me with a brick wall that extends the depth of our home and then 6 metres more from the rear of our house. It's 10 metres high to the eaves alone and topped with a 4 metre steeply pitched roof that accommodates an apartment. The whole thing is just 3 metres from our home. Is there anyone who would not be devastated by this question mark? Indeed, at the Area Planning Committee, all ward councillors had voted against the application. It was recognised by the Principal Planning Officer that the block of flats would have a harmful impact on my property. I went to the planning department and I was advised how I could help to mitigate the problem. I then submitted the prescribed plans and was given reassurance on several occasions that they were to be recommended for approval. Having builders on site, I proceeded naively with the building work, not knowing there could be any issues. In March 2019, I was no more than 3 months from completing the build, and council officers raised issues that required me to stop the work. There is not enough time to fully explain the trials and tribulations of the last 2 years, but I have worked tirelessly to resolve the matter. It is to be a family home large enough to accommodate visiting relatives and for my elderly partner to proudly entertain the family gatherings before she becomes too frail to do so. Her health has deteriorated and today we remain in a state of limbo, living in the building site, hoping daily for better news and having to endure all the while the emotional and financial stress the situation has caused. Speaking as me, thankfully the planning department have now agreed with the planning inspectorate and described the side and roof extension as being of a size, scale and design that is acceptable and complements the appearance of the existing building and the street scene, and is similar to other developments present within the wider area. Therefore, I hope the councillors will approve the application so that in this respect, at least we can move forward. And I can give, for every person that disagrees with this application, I have a resident that supports Paul. But there's sympathy on both sides. It's one of balance. I've said my part. Over to you, councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers.
I'm going to leave the meeting.
Sorry?
I'm going to leave the meeting. I've got another meeting I'm going to go to at 8 o'clock, but I just wanted to.
Thank you, that's fine. Thank you for that presentation. Members, please.
Could we have Councillor Aniket Patel first, please, Chair?
Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, I'm ward councillor for this where this application site is located. The objector and the parish council have raised some serious concerns about the legitimacy of the application. Now, bear in mind that we can only judge what's here in front of us based on the description within the application proposal. But we've got to also consider. I think we need to be guided further by officers on this, because essentially this is a retrospective application. We can see what's already there, but the peer inspector has basically said on what's being applied for in this application that they don't consider there to be any detrimental harm to the neighbours. But we do have to. But there is a second element to this application. So we need absolute clarity, really, that can we determine this application without consideration for the second element, which is the rear extension, or should we be looking at this collectively as a whole? Because obviously, as stated, there are two elements to this. Both elements, as stated in the inspector's decision, state that the combination represents harmful overdevelopment. So what happens when the developer, well, not the developer, what happens when the applicant comes back with the rear extension? How does this application prejudice the other one?
It doesn't, councillor. There is nothing to stop the committee from deciding to grant permission for this. It's a discrete part of the scheme. The rear part is a different part of the scheme. And all I would say is there is no application before you for that in any event. It's purely this application for the side extension, the roof works, and members, you can make a decision on that.
Chairman, if I can come back in, I appreciate that, Mr. Gonnan, but essentially there will be an application for the rear extension. We know that because it's already there. Essentially, it's very difficult to remove that from our minds when looking at this application. Now, I think what's not helped is that the appeal inspector has basically said that what's being proposed today is okay as far as they're concerned, which sort of ties our hands to be able to object against it. But I do have some serious concerns about the second element, and how do we not discount? How do we stop ourselves from discounting what's been previously judged upon and given a verdict upon by the inspector?
Well, the inspector's decision is a material planning consideration, and it's a very significant material planning consideration for the elements that are before you tonight, with the side extension and the roof elements. The rear extensions are not part of this scheme, and as you're aware, there is ongoing enforcement action that is dealing with that. I understand the applicant is also still in talks with planning officers, but the rear extensions are not part of this scheme, and they're not before you tonight. What is before you is the side extensions and the roof elements.
Sorry, the question I have though is that when the second application comes in, will consideration be given to this application?
Is this hypothetical?
Well, no, because an application for a rear extension will come in because it's there. So
Yes, but just considering the side extension this evening.
Yes, I mean, this is just for the side extension. The rear extension, should a further planning application be made, it won't be made on the scheme as it is there now, because that's already been refused. So it would be a different scheme. And again, this is a different scheme because they're making a change to where the dormer is positioned by basically setting back in 800 millimeters. And I mean, I understand the problems because people would like to deal with this in the round, but that's not what is before you. It's before you is the side and roof extensions. This is nothing to do with the back extension.
So essentially, our hands are tied then on the application. I feel it's unfair for that we are having to judge it in this way.
Point of order, Madam Chairman. We're here to discuss what's in front of us, not what might be. We're wasting a tremendous amount of time.
Yes, I've just outlined that. With the and emphasised that we're here just for the side extension and the bit in the roof. And this is what we are making a decision on this evening, not the back extension. That has been repeated over and over again, that's another entity.
Chair, shall we move on to the speakers?
Yes, please.
Can I speak next, please? And then after me, can we have Councillor Simon Heath? Thank you. This is for Mr. Godden. I am concerned about overdevelopment in the area, and I wondered how many other box dormers we actually have in that road. And my other concern is one that Gavin Chambers brought up, which was about the flats that are going on the bungalow. Do we know how high they're going to be? So there we are. They're for you, Jerry.
The first one with regard to the box dormers, certainly I believe this is one of them, an up to date. But in the immediate vicinity, you can see a box dormer in this location and a box dormer in that location. So there's at least two in the immediate vicinity. As for the block of flats height, I'm not sure if that's in the report, to be honest. And I don't know without looking it up is the simple answer to that. As far as
and it's to the left, is it over here?
Yes. The block of flat where this green roof is, this area here. I mean, it's certainly going to be at least 2 stories, but I'm afraid I haven't that information before me at this stage.
It's 10 metres.
Okay. 10 metres, which is how high?
30 feet.
10 metres.
So that's about 3 floors?
Yes, 10 metres would be, if you say 2.5 metres per story, yes, that would be 3 stories.
Okay, so that's not out of keeping with the area then?
Well, no, I mean, as you can, sorry, Councillor, as you can see, there are some large houses in this road. It's quite an eclectic mix of design styles and buildings within the street scene.
Thank you for that.
Thank
you. Over to Councillor Simon Heap, please, Chair.
Councillor Heap.
Well, I'm happy to defer to other people if they wish to speak first, but this boils down to inexactitude of language. because the applicant has proceeded based on certain advice given to him by the planners. And if councillors can remember, when we looked at the flats in at number 48, Stefan Solon, when he was here, he said that there was not going to be any overlooking issue on number 46, which is the one we're talking about, because he already had planning permission for an extension, a 6-metre extension. I'm not sure if that's what he's actually going to ask for. So it was 3 flats replacing a bungalow to be individual units, which are now going to, there is an application for 5. Is there going to be a lift in all of these flats? We need to ask ourselves. So what we're looking at is a tiny bit of stuff that has been approved by an inspector. Don't be concerned about all of the other stuff at this point. And I feel enormous sympathy for the objector, Caroline Barry, because she thinks she's going to be affected, and she may well be, but that is not our primary issue here. Is this going to be a detrimental effect to the entire area? No.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Can we have Councillor Sandler next, please?
Councillor Sandler.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, Councillor Heap really said a lot of what I was going to say. If you look at the map that Mr. Godden has shown us, I can see 3 box dormers. This is going to be no different. I think by coming in by 800 millimetres, it's going to be a better shape. I really can't see any objection to what they're proposing. And once again, we can only talk about what is in front of us quite clearly. This application is for the box dormer, not for anything else. It's the box dormer on the side, which I give full support to.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Councillor Stephen Murray, please.
Councillor Murray, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I think I know the answer, but it hasn't been made explicit, I don't think, in the presentation or any of the comments we've had up till now, unless I've missed it. What weight as members do we need to give to the inspector's comments about the side and roof plans that are before us tonight? What weight in our judgment do we need to give to the inspector's views?
Well, it's a material planning consideration, and because it's a recent appeal decision from a planning inspector, it would be significant weight.
Okay, is that fine?
Yeah, Chair, I cannot see any other speakers.
So there's no other speakers on this application, and there's been no conditions suggested. So may we go to the formal vote, please, on this application?
Yes, Chairman. So again, if councillors could say their name and whether they're for, against or abstaining. Councillor Baldwin.
Yes, Councillor Roger Baldwin for the application.
Councillor Beales.
Councillor Amy Beales, abstain.
Councillor Brooks.
For.
Councillor Heap is not voting. Councillor Jennings.
Councillor Bob Jennings, abstain.
Councillor Judy Jennings.
Councillor Judy Jennings, abstain.
Councillor Kaufmann.
Councillor, I was trying to get your attention because I have a similar issue to Councillor Heap, because I've been in constant dialogue with the applicant, and I feel I should, like Councillor Heap, not vote on this application, of which I couldn't get the chairman's attention to say that. So,
right.
Are you declaring a non-pecuniary interest?
I believe I should, because I've been in constant contact with the applicant and the planning officer, so I feel I shouldn't vote. But could I have some guidance on that?
It's entirely your decision.
Perhaps I should abstain then. So I don't.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Lyon.
For the application. Councillor Lyon for the application.
Councillor Mead.
Councillor Mead for the application.
Councillor Murray.
Councillor Stephen Murray on the basis of the inspector's comments for the application.
Councillor Neville.
Councillor Neville would just also like to make a non-pecuniary interest in the first application, but I judged it was non-prudential, and Councillor Neville votes for the application.
Councillor Patel.
Councillor Patel abstain.
Councillor Chris and Caroline Pond are not voting because they lost connectivity and have left the meeting. Councillor Chris Roberts.
Councillor Chris Roberts abstains.
Councillor Deborah Roberts.
Councillor Deborah Roberts abstain.
Councillor Sandler. You're muted,
Councillor Brian Sandler for the application.
Councillor Wixley.
Councillor David Wixley for the application.
Councillor Rackham.
For the application, Councillor Rackham.
Councillor Share-Bernier.
Councillor Share-Bernier for the application.
That's 10 for the application, 0 against the application, and 7 abstentions.
So this this application has been agreed. And as this is the second of our 2 applications this evening at this committee, I'd like to thank everyone for your input and enjoy the rest of your evening. And sorry, did you have your hand up, Councillor Murray? Oh, no, he's gone.
I did, Chairman, because I didn't want you to close the meeting without me just being able to make one comment.
Yes, please do. Please do.
This is Councillor Brian Sandler's last planning meeting because he's not standing for re-election in Chigwell Row. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's done 25 years
My goodness.
District Council, and I know we're probably going to be saying something next week at full council, but planning has been one of his areas of expertise, and I just wanted to say how impressed I have been on most issues as regards Councillor Sandler's contribution to the council. I've seen all his 25 years, and obviously we haven't agreed on everything, but Brian, if I can call you Brian, you've done a wonderful job, and you've always been worth listening to on planning issues, and I just want to say a big thank you.
Yes, I'd like to say thank you as well. That's pretty impressive, 25 years. Unfortunately, we haven't got a glass of champagne to say cheers.
I have some in the refrigerator. Stephen, thank you very much for your comments, Stephen. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with you through the years. We've exchanged many debates, and I hope to continue doing so even when I'm not a councillor. I've had some wonderful time with lots of people, and Epping Forest District Council is a superb council with excellent officers, and we've got to remember that.
We will miss you, Brian.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you will be missed.
Thank you, Brian. You've been the most generous councillor I've met.
Thank you.
Good luck, Brian.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck.
Thank
Enjoy,
you. I
enjoy
appreciate
your
it.
Thanks for your service, Brian.
Yeah.
My pleasure. It's time for someone else.
Lots of proud.
Can you not stay another term?
It's been, no,
Right, okay, so on that wonderful positive note, Brian retiring from the council after 25 years and very, very well thought of, and wishing him the very, very best of luck for the future and very best wishes.
Thank you.
I'm going to say good night to everybody, and again, thank you for your input this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Good night.
Good night.